I have recently come to the conclusion that all 2K and 3K supports are just whiny victims who complain about their cores. And now that I've required 100 dislikes on this video by saying one sentence, I'm actually gonna get into the topic of this video, and no, I don't actually think all position 5s are like that. However, I do think if you're a position 5 player, you should take a lot more responsibility for your gameplay, and hopefully that's what we're gonna be able to help you do in today's video. I have 5 rules of good position 5 players, and no, this is not just a voiceover. I'm not just gonna be listing out rules. I'm going to be following Fly from EG in one of his matches against Beast Coast, and basically giving you examples so that you guys understand what you need to do in your pubs as well. Because no, it's not like, oh, Fly is from a professional match, guess it doesn't apply to me. If you do what he does, effectively and consistently, that's the key word, consistently, you will gain MMR. So listen to what I have to say, 5 rules of a good position 5 player, like and subscribe if you are a support player yourself and you want to see more supporting content, and let's get into it. So recently I played a live Pugna game too that I actually recorded over, and I talk a lot about how to dominate the support role, just in general how to make plays alone. So this can apply to the carry role, the offlane role, mid lane, and it's a really cool match that I recorded and I'm posting very soon on the main gameleap website. If you click the link down below, you're going to be able to view that entire video. It's super cool. On top of that, I also want to mention that I recently made a 33 Chen offlane replay, so I have a lot of great content coming out. There's even more, literally I've recorded even more stuff, maybe even some secrets of top 50 players coming up in the gameleap website as well. So a lot of great stuff. Everyone who I've been talking to about the website has been enjoying it. So yeah, click the link down below and hopefully I'll see you guys there. So the first thing I want to cover is polling. And I really want to make this clear to you guys. Polling is a blessing in Dota. If you can get a pull off in a high MMR game, if this is Fly, he is ecstatic. If you can deny an entire creep wave, they look at that as the biggest win possible in the laning stage. This is unarguable. It's more XP and gold than a kill in the laning stage. So if you can get pulls off, whether it's from the large camp or the small camp, you are a good position 5 player. But I often watch a lot of 2K, 3K players, especially the ones I've coached, and I always have to convince them to pull 3 or 4 more times in lane because they are permitted to in your average pub. And that's why right here I want you to look at this scenario. We see that Radiant, right, Fly on Radiant, currently has 4 ranged creeps. What does this insinuate? It insinuates that the lane is pushing, and anytime that the lane is pushing, you want to pull. I know this is something that has been true in Dota for years now, and yet, a lot of people just still don't do it or don't really put an emphasis on paying attention to how many range creeps there are. If you have 2 and the enemy team has 1, the lane is going to push. And because of that, he now goes for the side camp here, right? This tree has already been quelling because they are top tier players and RTZ is a good carry. And because of that, he's able to get a pull onto these 2 range creeps. Now the Wyvern tries to contest it because, as I said, this is how pro players function. They don't want others to pull. Unfortunately, the creeps actually lose vision. He's able to get one back here, but this is a major win for the lane. Yes, only 1 creep can be the difference between Wyvern and Doom hitting level 3 and them not being able to get a kill anymore. I'm serious. Like, you guys actually don't care about singular creeps that much. Every single time I can get XP, even if it's from a deny or I can deny XP from the enemy team by pulling a wave, I'm going to do it as a 5. And now you're going to see it once again here. You also do not want to make your carries lane very far up, and because of that, Fly is once again going to go for a pull. Now in this situation, you could argue, well, the lane would meet here and they're doing fine. In fact, they were actually winning this lane pretty hard. Why would he do this? Well, the reason is because now, if they want to, they can actually fight on the side camp, right? They can actually pressure the Doom, and they can pressure the Wyvern if they come contest it. And on top of that, RTZ can farm a Hellbear Smasher, right? Like, you see how big of an advantage it is. It's really a big deal. Now, the second point I want to get into, we're actually going to rewind a little bit in the replay, but this one is key for me, only because I think a lot of people actually aren't very proactive in their games. A lot of people are very reactive. It's why when I think about supports, especially low MMR supports that I've played with, it's often a big game of like, oh, can I TP mid to help my mid laner? 2 minutes in, can I TP top to save my off lane from dying? It's really not that good for the most part. Generally, if you want to win your games, you should follow the strategy I'm about to give you. And it's a pretty simple one, but no one actually does it or does it often. And what it is synergizing your damage, right? Creating 2v1 scenarios with your carry. 2v1 scenarios is how you win trades in Dota. This is how you need to think about it. Literally program your brain to look for 2v1. So now, what is the Doom going to do to start the lane? Well, this is a high MMR Doom, and funny enough, that actually makes him a little bit predictable in this case, because now you basically know a high MMR Doom is going to devour the first creep of the wave like a lot of Dooms do. And because of that, Arteezy and Fly at the same time synergize their damage onto the Doom. Now this trade is going to set them up to win the entirety of the lane. No joke, this singular trade with Arteezy's Orb of Venom on the Anti-Mage is going to set them up to win the trade. Now I hear all of you support players already complaining, what if my carry doesn't do that? Yes, I agree, your Anti-Mage 9 times out of 10 wouldn't make the play that Arteezy just set up. However, if you are laning with a Jug, or a Slark, or an Orb of Venom hero, because a lot of carries I actually have seen buying Orb of Venom nowadays, you can, if you ping them and tell them to go, and then ping the hero you want to go on, get them to go. It works. I've had coaching students try this out and start implementing this idea, and it works. And guys, I also grinded from 2k MMR to 7k MMR. You know, I wasn't always just 7k MMR. I didn't just start Dota and hit 7. No, I had to do this all as well. And I used this strategy. Tell your teammate you want to go, and Fly does this multiple times with Arteezy. When you synergize your damage and your usage of spells in lane, you all of a sudden double to triple your damage. In fact, I really think it's more like triple, because when you use a stun, let's say you Witch Doctor stun for a Slark, he's gonna get 3 to 5 more right clicks just because he can attack move in front of them. It's that severe. And now we're gonna see the same thing once again here. They see Whisper step up, and they see that they have a level 2 to a level 1 advantage. Pretty simple stuff, right? But you notice how Fly and Arteezy are on the same exact page? I do not expect you to be on the same exact page. I do expect you, if you want to gain MMR, to leverage your level 2 advantage. When you are a support player and your lane pushes in where you have a good start because you get pulls off, and this situation arises where you hit 2 before they do, please try to go on them. Try to go on them. In this case, they hit the level 2, he skills up the Penitence to get aggressive as it's an 18% movement slow and 30 attack speed buff for 5 seconds on both heroes, actually very potent in the laning stage, and they're able to pick up a kill onto the Doom. And this is obviously massive because now they're actually going to be able to sustain a level advantage through the entirety of the laning stage. In fact, he even does it onto the Wyvern here once again. And as you can see, this is how high MMR players function, and yes, they do this in pubs as well. You cannot tell yourself, oh, this is a pro match, it's impossible in pubs. Every single pro player or high MMR player, whether or not it's 5k, 6k, 7k, has gotten towards that level because they have learned to communicate with teammates. So you need to learn how to persuade people to make plays. It's something you can practice. So stop dismissing it as, oh my god, my carry doesn't listen. Start pinging, right? Start pinging, ping your spells, and initiate the fight yourself as a support. Alright, so this next topic gets me a little bit, heats me up a little bit, alright? I feel something when I think about this topic, because in the recent video, when I talked about 8 strategies that pros use that you don't, I had a lot of people in the comments, at least a few, who said, you know, well, Speed, you're not thinking about how 3k MMR games go, you don't understand that they're different. Well, first off, I actually watch a ton of 3k and 2k MMR games, and I'm coaching people in those brackets quite often. So I actually do watch it, and so I actually do understand it to a large extent, and I'm not just basing this off theory, it's actually stuff I've seen, and I've coached into people. And what I want to say about smokes, which is the next topic, is, guys, yes, you can get your teammates to smoke in the 2k, 3k MMR bracket. If you don't believe me, that's fine. I can't try to convince you forever, right? I'm just trying to tell you, if you want to be a good team player, whether or not you're a core, you're a support, you should try to use this item. All I recommend is that you do not try to use it on every single hero of your team. The thing that people get wrong is they think that every time they smoke, it has to be with 5 heroes. That's not true. You can smoke with 3. And now I'm going to show you this example of E.G. Fly, and sure, his team is coordinating with him. They're grouping together. But what can you do if your team doesn't do that? Simply walk to one of your fighting cores, such as your offlaner who will want to fight 9 times out of 10, because that's what offlaners do. Walk up to them, click the smoke, tell them you want to kill the Faceless Void or the Jug or the Anti-Mage who's showing on the map, and walk towards them. Make sure you have a game plan before you click the smoke. And now let's get into the clip, because guys, you have to know where you're going to go, otherwise people will doubt you, the smoke will not work. So get people to come that you want to come with you. Look, he's even pinging Crit and Boba in a professional match. He's like, you fools, come here. Come smoke, and you need to do the same thing in your pub. Now, if people don't listen to you, it's either because, you know, they either don't speak your language, or you've been extremely rude to them throughout the game, so they're not going to listen. In that case, you shouldn't. But if you are friendly, and or you just don't say anything all game, and you're doing fine, you can get the people who want to make plays to smoke just 2 or 3 heroes. It works. If you don't believe me, fine. If you do, and you want to try to gain MMR, I recommend you try what I'm saying. And look, what do they do here? They call a smoke. What do you think they do? They didn't know that this bounty hunter was going to be top. It was a replay bug, but he ends up showing out on his Anti-Mage. And now why are they going to be in position to catch him? Why? Is it because they have professional level knowledge? Is it because they have the insight of gods? No, it's because they proactively click smokes with the heroes that want to make plays and do the same exact thing with your team. Right? And then you catch this bounty hunter off guard. This is the same way you catch an AK player in a pub. It doesn't change. It's a pro match. It doesn't change the fact that humans are humans, and the same thing would happen in your 3K MMR match if you called smoke with your offlaner and your playmakers. And that's what you're supposed to do as a position 5. You have to rally your team. In fact, I want to talk about the slacks method really quickly. I think I've mentioned this in an old video, but for a lot of you who either weren't watching this channel or didn't remember it, what I want to say is that the slacks method is a way to gain MMR without necessarily being mechanically skilled. Now, slacks, if you're watching this, or anyone who's a fan of slacks, I'm not trying to flame his mechanical skill. However, what I will say is that he gained very, very high MMR. I know he at least reached 5k, which for a lot of people is super high, and yes, it is impressive. Now, if you watch his gameplay, a lot of people would flame him and be like, maybe he's not actually that good. But why does he gain MMR? Well, what Slacks is a god at is rallying the troops. It's the same reason why he's a commentator or a host at these tournaments, because he is good at rallying troops and gathering emotions. And if you can get your team to even group together with 2 or 3 heroes like this as a support, you will gain MMR, and that's exactly what Slacks did to get to 5k. Obviously other things as well, it's never just one thing, though it is complicated, but I really believe that was number 1. So next thing I want to mention is warding, and we're going to look at a couple examples of Fly actually warding this game, just so you guys can understand what I mean by this. Like, how do you get good at warding? What are a couple of tips and tricks? Well, what I recommend is you really try to think about the game and what your team needs to do, because a lot of supports, they get the wards and then they throw them down and they hope they do something. It's very important that you actually consider before the match, or at least in the state of the match that it's in, that you place your wards in synergy with what your playstyle is going to be. So why would Fly place a ward top like this? Well, maybe EG wants to push the top tier 1 tower, or run at the Wraith King who is going to be farming in this area. So this ward makes a lot of sense, it has actual purpose. On top of that, Fly is also trying to get into the head of the enemy team, and whenever you are a support player, I recommend you do the same thing. So if the enemy team is pushing bottom, you should immediately, if you push them out of bottom, look for D wards, because what was probably going through their heads? They're probably looking to ward the area so that they can fight and control it. This is something that applies in the majority of Dota games. It doesn't matter what your MMR is. And because of that, Fly looks for a ward. He's like, okay, Beast Coast probably thinks we're going to be playing top, so they'll probably ward top, and he ends up finding a good observer ward, which is going to protect them from the bounty hunter. Next up here, we're going to be going into a high ground push, and once again, his wards are going to resemble this. First off, I'm just going to take a quick look at the map to show you what he's placed down as of now. First off, he has some wards by this hill. It's really good for shutting down Wraith King and getting pickoffs. It's also a ward that I don't think gets dewarded too much, especially if the game is not that later on. And another one that they have is actually another aggressive ward. So you're going to notice EG wanted to play aggressive, so Fly is putting down aggressive wards that cover various parts of the map. And also what I like about them is that they're not obvious. The only time you really want to play obvious wards, like put them on hills for instance, is if you think it's really early into the game and they won't get dewarded. Or on the contrary, if you are playing in that area, you really just want to put down a hill ward so that you can protect the ward. This is a very high MMR strategy that can be used in any game as long as you coordinate your team around it. And on top of that, what I want to mention next is that his team is trying to go high ground. The enemy team has an Invis bounty hunter, and because of this he throws down 2 sentries, one on the left, one on the right, and an observer ward to get vision in the nighttime. And now you can see him pinging the obs. Why is he pinging the obs, guys? This is actually, once again, great coordination from Fly. He's telling his team that, hey, right, the enemy Wyvern or the enemy Grimstroke might try to deward it, and because of that, we can actually jump them. I really do believe that that's what they were trying to do. Now, a bad fight breaks out, but because they have the vision and they can see the enemy team coming, as well as read their movement, they're able to take a good fight. And now to get into my last point, I want to actually look at that fight one more time, because this is really, really monumental in this game. This is when the game ended, this exact play, and I think a lot of it came down to Fly's positioning. Now, the average player would look at this and absolutely dismiss it. It has nothing to do with Fly's positioning. But I really do think that. In fact, we're going to look at another fight earlier into the game that shows this as well. But basically, when they were going high ground, they take the racks and Fly gets out very, very early. Often what I'll see is your typical 2k or 3k witch doctor is like, hey guys, we're going high ground and we've taken the racks, but it's fine. I'm going to continue to run high ground and take the tier 4s because I need to end the game. But really, this is generally just going to throw, you need to back so that the enemy team chases you, right? You are going to generally be the first priority of any pickoff core, and frankly, there's a lot of them. It's bounty hunters, morphlings, juggernauts, PAs, anti-mage. They're all going to try to kill you if you're in position 5. So you need to stand really far back. Now in this case, his positioning isn't actually perfect with the enemy mage right next to him. However, because they back so early and he didn't get caught on the high ground, it takes the enemy team a long time to close the gap, right? They're also able to counter-initiate on the low ground here, creating an advantageous fight only because Fly backed. If the fight is here, they're going to have to play under the armor buff for the tower, they're going to have to play under the vision of Beast Coast, and overall it would just be a bad fight as kiting onto high ground will generally funnel you into a weird staircase that is hard to fight in. And yeah, because this doesn't happen and he buys effective items, he's able to pop his wand and his Hand of God, heal the full, make the bounty hunter overextend, and end the game for his team. And finally, to end off the video as well, I hope you guys have been enjoying this video. If you do, please like and subscribe to help obviously support our channel. We've been growing really well and we're actually pretty close to 200k subscribers, which is awesome. So hopefully you guys have been learning a lot about Dota. Obviously the goal of this channel is to continue just to help educate you guys on what actually gains you MMR and what makes you a better Dota player overall, right? This is, obviously the goal of gameleap in total. So yeah, hopefully you've been learning a lot, and let's get into the last clip. So, as we're going to see here, Fly is getting to a fight, the enemy team is actually planning to go on him, and now you're going to notice he didn't instantly run up this hill. So because he's paying attention to the minimap, which is basically how you have to position in Dota, you have to look at the minimap, see the heroes coming and instantly back or get away from the ones that are trying to kill you. He's able to identify the bounty hunter coming in from the north, and because of this, he backs to the left, right? So even this leftward movement is going to actually win his team the fight, or at least put his team in a position to win the fight because the bounty once again has to overextend. And that's a big theme here. As a support player, if you get picked off at the beginning of the fight, you can't be like, oh, it's fine. The Tide Hunter committed Ravage only to kill me. Well, actually probably not. The Ravage probably also hit other people, and it's really not worth it because then you don't get off any of your spells or items. And I see this happening with a lot of support players. They just dismiss their deaths. Please don't do that. Your life actually matters. We'd care about you. And so as you're going to see here, he steps to the left, and because he's actually farmed, right, he spent quite a bit of time farming, and this is not necessarily a bad thing, especially if you're a hero like Chen, or Prophet, or Dazzle, who can farm very quickly. He has a mech, a wand, and when you combine that with his good positioning, he's able to take a ton of damage from this core bounty hunter, who is actually quite farmed, right, third on the net worth chart. He's able to live for a really long time, which is going to obviously make the bounty hunter only hit him. I mean, look at this. Think about it, guys. How much time is he wasting here? The answer is a lot. And because of it, the Wyvern also overextends, which is going to let the enemy mage get on top of him. The enemy team had to overextend for the other heroes, which will then eventually get picked off as well. And the bounty hunter, as I said, wasted a ton of time. So I really want you guys to think about your positioning in fights. Please don't dismiss your deaths, and really make sure that you're getting off as many rounds of spells and your items every single fight. In fact, I even noticed this within a lot of core players as well, but I think it's primarily support players who die easily, where they'll have a Glimmer or a Force Staff, and they don't really get it off. And this is just a main problem and a way you could look at your gameplay and be like, maybe I'm messing up. If I'm not getting my spells or items off, I've made a mistake in my positioning, and I need to fix it. But thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, as I said earlier, like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Peace. And hey guys, remember, before you end this video, in the link down below, I've been playing a lot of live games where I talk about my thoughts in real time in the middle of a Dota match. So if you want to get in the head of a pro player, click the link down below to the gameleap website. Super cheap right now, right? And I'm doing this a ton. We all have time on our hands. I have time to make content. You guys probably have time to enjoy and learn Dota, get better at the game. So yeah, if that combo works for you, click the link down below, and I'll see you there.